It's Wednesday, midweek between Ghent-Wevelgem and the big one here in Belgium, the Tour of Flanders on Sunday. And at this midweek classic, the Dwars Vlaanderen, well, it was a day of lows and highs, extreme lows and extreme highs for the Dutch team, Team Visma Bike. The low, well, their favorite for the Tour of Flanders, Wout van Aert, was involved in a crash at 67 kilometers to go. High, well, and especially high if you're an American cycling fan, because it's an American from Idaho, 24 years old, Matteo Jorgenson, that wins the race. Yes, went with an attack at 7 kilometers to go to win solo here in Waregem. No Americans ever won this race, and after his victory, stage race, overall victory in Paris-Nice, the victory here today, well, in 4 days' time, you need to put him down as a favorite for Flanders, especially with the news today, the unfortunate news of Wout van Aert. And we'll get into that because today's race, 188 kilometers long. Yes, a midweek classic, but an important race altogether. A race where riders were fighting left and right to try to do something. Previous winner from 2 years ago, Mathieu van der Poel, was not on the start line. He's saving his bullets after riding E3, winning it, and Ghent-Wevelgem for Tour of Flanders on Sunday. He wasn't here, but the big guy himself was here, the big favorite here in Belgium, Wout van Aert. We saw Lidl Trek really taking it up today, riding on a high after their victory in Ghent-Wevelgem with Mads Pedersen. And again today, they were really pushing the pace with Alex Kirsch, Tom Skewens, big riders, Ed Toons, Jasper Stuyven, one of the team leaders, along with Mads Pedersen. Big show of force up front. But then the yellow boys of Visma Bike, 70 kilometers out, as they planned, ahead of the Canaryberg, came to the front and started pushing the pace. We saw an attack of another American from Ineos Grenadiers, Magnus Sheffield from New York. He was brought back. We saw Stefan Kung active, and that was a sign of things to come. Also, our American friend from Idaho and an eventual winner, Matteo Jorgenson, on the wheel, following it, setting it up for an attack later on. But unfortunately, we had this mega crash at 67 kilometers to go. We were unsure what was happening, how it all happened. We saw a rider popping up on the bike lane, other riders following him. It looked like a rider couldn't make it up the little curb, and it caused a big crash. However, after the finish, I spoke with Tish Benoot, and Tish Benoot said that his rear wheel, when he accelerated, hit Wout van Aert's front wheel, and he believed that caused the chain reaction that saw riders scattered everywhere on the ground, including his team leader, and he felt super terrible about that. Riders on the ground included 2 from Lidl Trek, Jasper Stuyven, who went to the hospital along with Wout van Aert, also Mads Pedersen, who got up and continued in the race. Also down was Biniam Girmay, former winner of Ghent-Wevelgem. He went to the hospital along with van Aert and Stuyven, and other riders were down there on the ground too. We heard screaming and yelling on the audio as the broadcast was showing us the footage of the incident there. A terrible moment. Jorgenson and Benoot carried on with the plan, however, which was to attack on the Canaryberg. They pushed on, and we saw Stefan Kung jump right on it. Josh Tarling was there making his way up to the move. Also in there, Dries de Bont and the Norwegian rider from Team Uno X, the Norwegian team, Jonas Abrahamsen. Those riders would be the riders that would go on to fight for the win. There we are, 65 kilometers out. Those riders are up front. Also on the move, I forgot to mention, former Flanders winner, Italian Alberto Bettiol, and he would play an important part in the climb coming up, the Nokerberg. He went on the attack, and that looked like a heck of a move, a similar move that helped him win the Tour of Flanders a few years ago. But as we saw later on in the Herlegemstraat sector, the cobbled sector, he had cramps. His left leg, we thought it was mechanical, but it was his left leg cramping up. I think that happened before in another race with the Italian. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to continue on in the move. Tish Benoot, Matteo Jorgenson, they did what they should have done in a group where they had the numerical superiority. They started launching attack and counterattack to make the others work, to bring him back and hope that one of those 2 would go free for victory. Starting at 10 kilometers out, we saw Tish Benoot doing a couple attacks. We saw Matteo Jorgenson, and then it was the attack of Matteo Jorgenson. 7 kilometers to go, and no one was reacting right away, or they didn't have the strength to react, and Matteo was free, riding home to victory. I think 4 kilometers to go, he had 22 seconds. 3 kilometers to go, already 30 seconds, and when he won here in Waregem, right over my shoulder, 29 seconds ahead of Jonas Abrahamsen in second, with the Swiss rider Stefan Kung taking third place. And we were right there when Matteo Jorgenson came in and celebrated with his teammate Tish Benoot. Tish Benoot, of course, upset with what had happened in the day, but also happy with the victory of Matteo Jorgenson. And it means a lot for Matteo. A few weeks ago, around about a month ago, his victory in Paris-Nice, coming to the super team, the Dutch super team Visma Lease Bike, after 4 years in the Spanish team Movistar, where he won the Tour of Oman last year, to sign this contract with this team this year. And it's just opened up the possibilities for Matteo, and he's really riding on a high. 4 days out from the Tour of Flanders. I spoke with Riley Sheehan, who won Paris Tour last year, rides for Israel Premier Tech, and he was over the moon. Magnus Sheffield, even though he wants to do something today for himself, he'll be happy for his fellow American too. Big days out for American cyclists and American fans. Now let's talk about the team of Visma Lease Bike and what's this all going to mean as we're going on to the Tour of Flanders and Wout van Aert. I had heard from some others here on the ground that perhaps Wout van Aert has a broken collarbone. He certainly didn't look good when he was there on the ground and trying to assess the situation, and they were helping him out, and then they had to get him on a stretcher and put him into the ambulance and take him to the hospital to get evaluations. What a blow for the Belgian rider. Finished second back in 2020 behind Mathieu van der Poel in the Tour of Flanders, and has had other placings in the top 10, and he really wanted to try to win the Tour of Flanders and also Paris-Roubaix. This year he retooled his early season campaign to be ready for those races, doing specific altitude training and then coming in, but it's been bad luck after bad luck with the crash in the E3 on the Paterberg, and today the crash here that looks like it's going to put an end to his cobbled classics campaign. So what is Visma Lease Bike going to do? Well, obviously they're going to pivot to Matteo Jorgenson as being the leader, or perhaps one of the big leaders of the team, heading into that monument cobbled classic on Sunday. Other leaders in the team, it could be Tish Benoot, perhaps Dylan van Baarle, himself a past winner in Paris-Roubaix. A lot of things are shaking up after today because we don't know how Mads Pedersen is. He did get back up on his bike, but he didn't finish the race. Jasper Stuyven is still being evaluated for his injuries in the crash. Also Biniam Girmay. So a lot of the favorites are out and suffering and evaluating themselves ahead of Sunday. And we know Mathieu van der Poel, if he's training in Spain right now, he'll be watching the highlights, seeing what happened today. Misfortune for his longtime rival, Wout van Aert. But it's a day of celebration for American Matteo Jorgenson, on a high this 2024 season, and now winning the Dwars Vlaanderen.